Ladies and gentlemen, it's finally time for X Games Gold matchup here at the Aspen Invitational. Benson joined by Walshy. I cannot wait.
X Games Aspen, which was another historic moment for you, my man. What was that event like for you? How did it feel to be such a big part of esports history, winning the first X Games Gold medal in gaming?
We probably weren't the best team at that event, but just off pure desire to beat TJ probably was what helped push us over the edge.
And Frosty's gonna get killed as well by Snip3down. Here's the new combo, and look at what it means to Evil Geniuses. Your X Games Gold medalist just erupts in the booth.
Yeah, that event was like a movie.
But Evil Geniuses, they don't care about that. They just want X Games Gold.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tide the Leader, a podcast dedicated to exploring the past, present, and future of Halo and all the amazing people in it. My name is Makowski. Joining alongside me is Eli the Ninja each and every single week. Our guest today, though, has reached the pinnacle of competitive Halo, but still strives for more. He made history as an amateur, placing top 4 from the open bracket. Years later, he cemented himself as one of the greatest players to ever grace the game. Please welcome to the podcast, Lunchbox. How we doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
With every show, we like to start off with the origin story. So to kick things off, Lunchbox, what are some of your earliest memories in gaming, and what were you playing?
Probably earliest is Halo 1. We basically landed, I don't know, probably 5 days a week at our buddy's house. System linked with the Cat 5 cable running across the floor in the house to link the Xboxes up, and we played 3v2s, me, my brother, and our buddy versus his older brother and his friend for the longest time because they were a lot better than us when we first started playing. And yeah, just grinded a lot of Halo 1 is kind of my beginning roots of Halo.
That's surprising to me. I feel like was there not other games that you played before Xbox, like Nintendo 64, GameCube, anything like that, or?
Yeah, I played a lot of Super Smash Bros.
Okay.
on 64. That was probably one of my earliest multiplayer competitive games. Played a lot against my brother in that, and had some battles.
Who's your main?
I played Ness.
Oh,
Okay.
And they hated me for it. They couldn't touch me in the original.
yeah, annoying play against and annoying voice lines. I remember that too. It was,
Yeah.
triggering.
Checked all the boxes. Checked all the boxes. You know, that kind of got me into it, I guess, was probably the N64 of really thinking that I was decent at video games and kind of just pursuing, playing them a little more. Obviously, at that point, I had no idea that I'd be playing video games competitively for years, but it was something fun to play against, my brother and buddies, get together, hang out, and yeah, play games.
Was there always like a rivalry between you and your brother? Kind of challenge each other to get better at everything?
Everything was a competition. I'll just say that. Yeah, we didn't like to lose to one another, so you were certainly, trying your hardest, no matter what the game was. When we were playing against each other, which I think ultimately helped us throughout our competitive career because, the juices got flowing anytime we were playing, against each other in anything. So yeah, we always had that drive to want to beat each other, and yeah, that just benefited us throughout our careers, just wanting to be the best.
Yeah, it always feels like the family, or especially the brother, is a driving force in reaching your competitive peak. I gotta ask though, speaking of your brother, how'd you guys get your gamer tags? Because he's Roy, and he just went with Roy. You're Jason, and while that would have been a nice Friday the 13th reference, you went with Lunchbox instead. How'd you get that?
So yeah, the origins of Lunchbox just come from when we were younger. I used to be a little chubbier growing up, so it originated from the movie Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Nice,
an all-time classic.
Oh yeah.
They called me Lunchbox, and it just kind of stuck. I went through multiple iterations of gamer tags through the years, but finally stuck on Lunchbox sometime around 2005 or 6. And then Justin's is much much lamer stories is from the Starbucks commercial, Eye of the Tiger spinoff.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So he got
Okay.
that, and I don't know, just stuck from there.
His name's not Roy?
It is not. His name is Justin.
Oh, yeah, I just forgot. Dude.
Jason and Justin, bro, you're faded. What are you talking about?
A lot of the people do think that because the gamertag Roy just came out of nowhere, but no, it's from a Starbucks commercial.
Wow.
I thought it was from Smash. Like when Roy is popping off in Super Smash Brothers, the audience goes, "Roy's our boy. Roy's our boy." I thought that was what it was from, but it was.
Yeah, that's a far better story, but no, it's from the Starbucks commercial.
Man.
Wow. Oh, God.
That's actually hilarious.
That's why we ask that question in every single podcast, because there's always a good gamertag origin story. But expanding on growing up with a twin brother, what was it that formed that rivalry and challenge early on for you guys? And when did you was it right off the bat that you started trying to see who was one and two?
I mean, yeah, we played sports growing up, baseball, tennis, we bowled. So there was, there was competitive rivalry as early on as I can remember with us, going against each other. And like I said, any sport or any game that we could play, we were trying to beat one another. So having a twin, it was obviously a huge blessing that, we were able to make this, do this run in Halo together for pretty much our entire careers. And, again, just everything about, having a twin brother that's also playing on your team is just a benefit. Looking for teams is a heck of a lot easier when you have two people looking instead of just one. Yeah, and I think we just both had pretty easygoing personalities. I think we attracted, just players. We were normal kids, just fighting our way through the amateur depths when we first started playing. We're supposed to go to Chicago 2005 with the team and had teammates flake last minute. Same thing in 2006, and finally settled on Charlotte 2007 to go to our first event. And kind of crazy to think back, because if we didn't do what we did at that tournament and placing the money, get a stipend, going to the next ones, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now. So a lot of cards had to fall into place for my career and Justin's career to end up how it did. So obviously feel very fortunate that we were able to play Halo as long as we did, and the blessing that I'm still involved in some small way.
Well, I'd say it's a big way, but before we talk more about that, let's stick with this early part of the timeline. Were the Ogre twins a big contributing factor to the belief and the excitement to try and do this? I imagine maybe seeing fellow twin brothers achieve that success made you guys think maybe you could do it too? Yeah,
absolutely. They were probably the two people that we looked up to the most before we kind of broke into the scene and started playing. Particularly before Charlotte 07, that was one of the teams that we would try and scrim online, and a lot of pro teams wanted to scrim us, which is pretty unusual,
unheard of.
We were very good online, and kind of got that nickname going into Charlotte 07. Just the online guys, nobody thought that we were gonna be able to do it on LAN or show up, which throughout history has been the case. A lot of teams that are really good online doesn't necessarily translate to LAN. So, but yeah, the Ogres are definitely two kind of just founders of competitive Halo, and guys that really helped build the scene. And I don't remember what event it was before in 2007, but we got the chance to go to Tom and Dan, the Ogre's house, to land before the event. And
what?
I remember taking a sign of the Pickerington, Ohio sign on the way in. We were just so excited that we were going to play. Crazy good opportunity for us to land against one of the best teams, or the best team in the game at that time. So yeah, we were fortunate throughout that entire season to kind of get our name in with some of the better teams, and had the chance to get good practice.
What was more of a make it moment for you guys? Was it getting top 4 at Charlotte or getting invited to the Ogre Twins land?
It was probably comparable, to be honest. Yeah. I would say the fourth place run was pretty memorable. We had to beat quite a few what I would call old heads now. When we were playing in 2007, there were guys that had been going to events for quite a few years. So veterans of the scene. I think we beat Redemption and then Shook One Gaming on our way to that run before we got 3-0'd by Carbon in 15 minutes. The top 3 teams, were a step ahead of us for sure
Yeah.
at that first event, especially. That to me was some of the most fun I've had playing Halo.
From my perspective back then, I had only been really playing Halo 2 for like a year, I guess, before you guys joined. Like I was playing in 2006, and I had never even seen you guys before. Like you guys, just to me at Charlotte, literally came out of nowhere and finished top 4. So like I know you said you got some practice from top teams online. I guess earlier in Halo 2, like I'm talking about Chaos to Ninja, Hellboy, those days. Like that was kind of the group of people that I played with and knew about. Like who were you playing with in the very early days before you guys even got to LAN?
One of our original teams was Ichiban. I don't know, probably won't
Yeah,
be
I
a whole
remember
lot
him.
of people that remember him now. But yeah, he was one guy. He ended up not coming to the event in 05. I mean, basically, any of the early guys we were playing from 05 fairly competitively on.
I feel like we just never crossed paths somehow. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I mean, the fortunate thing about our 5K team was that Fear itself lived 2 hours away in Chicago, and then Hokum lived in Wisconsin. So we were all within about a 5-hour drive. So we went to quite a few local, or what I'd call locals, into like Chicago area, and even St. Louis, like anywhere really in the Midwest that we could drive to. A lot of pretty much big local tournaments that we could get practice at before we ended up going to Charlotte 07. But to be honest, that was really the first like really serious team that we had was the 5K team. We had a team with Crack Pants and Fear, and then ended up dropping Crack Pants for Hokum. So
Oh my god,
that was
that's actually so funny. Did you team with like Rudy Reborn and that group of people as well, or
we
like
never
play
teamed with
them?
him, but he was Fear itself's local, so we were around him a lot and played against him and with him, but never officially on a team together.
I have a very funny Crack Pants story, but I might have to save that for another time. In Halo 2, 5K, you guys kind of peaked at top 4. You guys got 5th and 6th quite a bit, and then kind of hit that ceiling. We mentioned it before, running into the brick wall that was Carbon. What do you think held your team back from breaking into the top 3 at that time?
It's one of those things where the top 3 teams were probably just a step ahead of us individually at that time. I would say we had a bad break here and there. It was Orlando 07. We lost 50-49 to Straight Rip in Game 5, and they ended up winning the tournament. So I think a lot of it was just like not closing out series that we needed to at certain tournaments, and we had the ability, I think, to beat most teams, but again, it was probably like the 5 or 10% chance that we had, and just never had that small amount of luck go our way.
There can be no more deaths for Straight Rippin'. It's a 2-point game. Legit picks up 49. It's tied at 49.
Nice. Keep it up. Watch out,
Both teams looking for the final kill. T-Squared coming off the respawn. There's a grenade, and there's 50. What an unbelievable finish, Greg. 50-49 in a tiebreaker game. You couldn't script it any better. Couldn't get any closer. That's one of the best matches I've ever seen.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there was necessarily one thing that I could pinpoint that held us back from breaking into the top 3, but we were close several times, kind of bouncing around from 4th and 5th place. So
yeah, I think it was a great experience for you guys. Obviously, you're still growing. It felt like you guys always had a good regiment when it came to improving, and you did steadily over time. I guess at some point between Halo 2 and Halo 3, you part ways with Fear itself and Hokum. You pick up Makio and Victory X. Very first Halo 3 event, you guys get 3rd place, and then you steal my teammate Snip3down for the next event. I've always wanted to ask you, how did that team change happen? Did you guys like watch him play on my team and see how talented he was, or like how does Snip3down join your team in 2008?
I think I have to give Bakio props for that. He was kind of the one that I think threw his name into the hat, and Victory ended up, I think, leaving our team at that point. We didn't drop him.
Yeah. Okay.
So we ended up being forced to search for a 4th. Eric had popped off, I think, at that first Halo 3 event, or had some pretty big series. Yeah, I just remember him having some pretty big games at that tournament. So that kind of put him on, I would say, a lot of the top teams' radar, but particularly ours because we were on the hunt for a new 4th. Ended up being obviously a huge blessing that we were able to, unfortunately for you, steal him from you guys. But he Yeah, he played really good at San Diego 2008, which was that second event of the year.
How does it feel to be up here with these guys and gelling so quickly? I mean, honestly, it seems like you guys have been playing together forever.
Well, I really liked joining this team, and I knew it was going to be a really dedicated team. And when we started practicing, we got really good together, and our chemistry was pretty sick.
Well, I got to say, I was impressed. I was a little surprised.
Ended up coming up pretty big for us in multiple series. So kind of a weird time in our career, or my career and Justin's too. But, Makio was kind of like the veteran of the team. So he was kind of spearheading some of the team decisions we were making at that time. And, I won't put full blame on him for dropping Snip3down after that San Diego 08 event, but he wanted to team back up with Victory X after that event. So a lot of team changes, which aren't my favorite thing. I prefer at all, if at all possible, to stick together and see if we can improve. In the early days, you're kind of still scratching and trying to do whatever it takes to find wins.
And shout out to Snip3down real quick, because he came back to us like after, I think Makio was the one that offered the position on the team. And he came to me and he's like, yeah, I mean, I got this offer from Instinct to join, but like, I don't want to leave you guys just hanging. And I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? Go join that team. Like he didn't want to until I told him, like, you would be an idiot if you didn't take this offer.
Yeah, that's the epitome of Eric back then. He was, super nice guy. Still is, but nice. Very, very humble and a very good teammate as well.
Yeah, Snip3down would ultimately go on to have one of the most insane rookie years of all time. But you guys did pretty well yourself, ultimately finishing 2008 with a second place finish. I'm going to skip through Halo 3 a little bit and go through to all the way through 2009, where you guys had some ups and downs. But finally, at MLG Orlando 2010, where you had previously lost 50-49 to Straight Rip, and you guys years later finally break through and get your first LAN win with your brother, Elamite and Cloud. What was that moment like for you? You had been chomping at the bit for years and years and years, getting real close to that first place finish, and now you finally got it.
Once you reach the mountaintop, there's not much better of a feeling. I'm not gonna lie. It's all the hard work that you've put into it, and for me to be able to do it with my brother, it was as rewarding of a feeling as you could possibly have.
And I'll tell you what, it's a great thing to see, because you talk about Roy and Lunchbox, you talk about two of the good guys in our league that everyone seems to like, doesn't have anything bad to say about them. They've come away now with their first event win.
The one thing that sticks out about that is the game that we ended up winning on was Guardian Ball, and we almost got DQ'd on it because Cloud took the ball up into the spot on top blue that you're not supposed to when the game was mathematically over.
What?
Oh, wow.
The time, there wasn't enough time left on the clock for them to win the game, but they had the choice to replay that game. So that always sticks out, a little caveat with it.
Wow, and what team of four were these absolute chads?
It was classic. So it was Ghost. Ghost was on the team, so shout out to Ghost. He was another stand-up guy, one of the OGs.
He said, "Nah, they got the win. We were gonna lose anyways. It doesn't matter."
I mean, the game was over, mathematically.
Welcome back to MLG Championship Sunday. After reviewing the play, our commissioner says it's good. Instinct are your 2010 Orlando champions. Huge congratulations to those guys. And Scott, we have to talk.
Well, I guess ball don't lie, and what a cool little anecdote and stand-up sportsmanship in the Halo community. I mean, that's it's a pretty big step, and we're all teenagers at that point. That's a man's decision right there to say, you know what, you guys got that, you would have won anyways. So big ups to Ghost.
Yeah, there was a lot of teams that would not have said that probably at the time. So yeah, big props to them for doing it.
Roy was known as the best BR in the game. It seemed like every single 1v1 he got into, he was winning it with a 4-shot. You were the more analytical type, and I always remember this because you had the glasses on and Roy didn't. But together, you guys had the strength and the intelligence to become like one Spartan super soldier. I mean, it was insane to watch you guys both work together. Was that what made you so dominant, that you both complemented each other's play styles rather than clashing and playing the same type?
I mean, I think that's a very good description. I was honestly just blessed that he was as good as he was for as long as he was. He was, pretty much an automatic, plus 10 every single fucking game, it felt like, in Halo 3 especially.
Yeah.
Just dropping huge numbers, and the legend of his BR was not overblown. He was he was that tough in a 1v1 from my perspective, but it allowed me to play kind of more of an OBJ focused play style, which is always what I feel like I excelled at the most.
You would say that you playing the macro so well allowed him to go ahead and slay out.
Yeah, he'd always worked both ways, and we were fortunate to team with a lot of very, very good players throughout the years. But yeah, him and I always always meshed very well together with how we kind of played and saw the game.
Speaking of teaming with some very good players, that ties into my next question. So, like, after you guys get your first win at Orlando, it felt like that kind of opened the floodgates for you and Roy. You guys amassed a couple more wins in Halo 3, but then in Halo Reach, you formed a super team with Pistola and Ogre 2, which made it to grand finals in 8 out of the 10 tournaments you entered, winning 5 of them. Looking back on it, was this the best team you were ever a part of? I mean, on paper, this roster looks insane.
It's tough for me to rank, teams, numerically, just because they're all different players and different teams we're playing against. But it was certainly one of the most dominant teams that I've ever been on, and just that group of guys with Tom and Ola and Towie coaching us. It was just, our practice was always top tier. Effort from everybody was always, what you'd get at the tournament, which. To me was always one of the biggest things when looking for teammates is finding players that we're going to give full effort. Nobody wants to get on and waste their time playing games where people are trolling or just not trying their hardest because you're not learning anything from that and not getting better as a team. So that team in particular in Reach with Tom and Ola was very good at that, and I think it showed. Our most of our scrims we were winning and a lot of times in pretty dominant fashion, so it just translated to the tournaments because we were playing the same way. So 3
twins on the same team seems overpowered.
Yeah, that's another team that almost didn't form. They told us no at first. We went to that first Reach event with Justin and I had Tots and T Squared, and they had Feared Victory, which was the team that they had three-peated with and won the 2010 national championship. So it was a big team change decision for them to make, to leave Fear and Victory. But I think Justin and I kind of stood out pretty well in Reach at the beginning, especially. We were doing our thing. Back then, the LAN network was where everybody kind of went before the tournaments to get practice in. So we went to multiple LANs before that first event and played well. So Tom and Ola, I think, certainly took notice that we were gonna be pretty good players at that game as well. So luckily that team formed and pretty much stuck together until there wasn't a reason to be going to Halo tournaments in Halo 4 anymore.
Yeah, you guys were a staple in that LAN network the early days of it. What do you recall from that? And just talk about how groundbreaking and trailblazing that was.
Yeah, it's only good memories from the LAN network. Mr. and Mrs. P, the two that kind of put it all together, Mr. P especially, just invested so much time, money, and energy to, let us all invade their house and practice a video game. So, them two people alone really helped push Halo and kind of the ceiling because, without them and without, before every event, pretty much the top 3 or 4 teams were going to their house to practice. And, you're playing, probably anywhere between 30 and 40, 50 games a day.
Yeah.
We basically ate, slept, and played Halo for 3 or 4 days or however long we were there. So everybody was, fairly close. And a lot of those friendships, a lot of us have kept up with over the years, just, based on memories that we've had just from the LAN network alone, on top of the tournament. So.
Shout out to Mr. and Mrs. P. I don't know what they're up to these days. I'm curious what that whole family, Tots and his older brother, are doing. Was it Joe Fries? Was that his name?
Joe Fries. Yep. He's one that I've kept in touch with a little bit, in the earlier years of Infinite. But I think everybody's doing well as far as I know. I don't keep in touch with them as much as I should, but I think everybody's doing okay.
Well, earlier you said it's hard to rank your best rosters, and it's pretty obvious when you look at your wiki why, because you've been a part of so many insane ones. Moving into Halo 2 Anniversary, you dominated again, this time with Snip3down and Lethal. So reuniting with Eric picking up TJ. You guys pretty much win every Halo 2 anniversary event. Was Halo 2 Anniversary like a really good game for you specifically, since maybe because you had your first foray in competitive was in Halo 2?
Yeah, I felt like Halo 2 Anniversary was probably one of my better games just individually and just how I saw the game. It had its issues, which was, the game not really working on release and all sorts of connection issues. But for actual gameplay, I thought the game was solid.
It was frustrating that they had a campaign version of the game that had the original mechanics like double shot, BXR, and all that stuff. But then multiplayer, I think, used Halo 4's engine.
Yep.
Like multiplayer was so different. And then on top of that, like footstep audio was deafeningly loud. It was crazy. Like that was one of the first times I think that footsteps were such a big deal in Halo 2 Anniversary. You could hear people from so far away. Were those some weird adjustments for you? Would you have preferred the OG Halo 2 mechanics instead of the Halo 4 engine?
That's tough for me to say. Like I enjoy going back to play some of the older Halos, but to be honest, I'm just always looking for kind of like the next new thing. Going back here a few months ago to play the Halo 2 throwback event, like it was fun for a month to go kind of dive back into that, but after that month, like I really don't have much desire to go back and play some of the older Halos. It's, at this point, I've been playing Halo for literally half my life. And to go back and play some of the old stuff, it's like I'm looking to play, the new games, the newest Halo, and just kind of what's the game that's being played competitively is kind of what I'm interested in playing. I don't have a ton of time to go back and invest to get good at any of them, so like going back and being a burger at any of them just isn't that fun to me, to be honest.
Fair enough.
Still a pretty good burger at that. But now we're in the Halo 5 era, and this is historic, another historic moment for you, my man, where you won your first Halo 5 event at X Games Aspen, which was, I remember, surreal seeing the clashing of action sports and esports.
Back down in the EG squad, smell blood as they have 49 kills.
And Frosty's gonna get killed as well by Snip3down. Here's the new combo.
Well, what was that event like for you? How did it feel to be such a big part of esports history, winning the first X Games gold medal in gaming?
That event was like a movie.
They don't care about that. They just want X Games gold.
We probably weren't the best team at that event, but just, off pure desire to beat TJ probably was what helped us push us over the edge.
You made the wrong decision.
Did TJ ditch you guys?
Yeah, this was what started that whole, Snip3down versus Lethal.
Yeah, so he left us like a day or two before the deadline, which was a big decision by him, obviously, because, we had won most of the events in Halo 2 Anniversary, but...
What did he tell you his reason was? Because that always seems so, it was bizarre.
PJ and Roll 2 were, staples in the scene at that point and doing their thing. They were, placing, top 3, top 2 at a good portion of the events that they went to. So it's not like he was leaving for a team that, possibly had a chance to be good. That team was going to be good. And that was when Frosty was kind of breaking into the scene hot and heavy, and obviously that entire roster has proven that it was an incredibly good decision by TJ to leave us. But in the moment, obviously we weren't happy about it, and kind of had to really move quick to try and find a fourth because we didn't have much time. I think he left like a day or two before the roster deadline. So
how did Hammy come into the picture?
To be honest, I don't know. That was kind of Eric and Justin's decision at the time. Since 2013, I've worked full time as an electrician, so any game past that point, I've been working and then getting home and playing to practice whatever. But so I wasn't as knowledgeable about kind of the best up and coming players. Like we had multiple options to sift through, and Hammy was one of the up and coming young guys that Justin and Eric kind of scouted, and
he told us no at first when we asked him to team with us. Just throwing that out there. We had to talk him into it, and he's probably happy he joined now.
That was the decision we made, and it worked out well for us for X Games at least.
And of course, our gold medalists, Evil Geniuses.
In November of 2017, you and Roy would both decide to retire together. It looks like it was maybe post Halo World Championship or post event, since I remember every Halo player seemingly that ever played the game was there. And in that video, I recall an extremely emotional Roy. What was that moment like for you as his twin brother? I imagine you were feeling a lot of those same emotions.
One of the best things about these guys is the people that they are. Honestly, nobody talks about Lunch and Roy, the people, the person. They are two of the nicest guys that I've met.
Anybody that knows Justin and I knows that was the last thing in the world that we wanted was Towie to make that video. Obviously, in hindsight,
it's a tearjerker.
Incredibly thoughtful, but neither him or I, liked that spotlight on us, and I would have been just as fine, kind of, retiring in the quiet and not needing any of that. But it was special to see everybody kind of, acknowledge it at the very least. We hadn't had the best run in Halo 5 for the last several years leading up to that point, and it's not just the competitive aspect that that you're going to miss once you retire. It's going to the tournaments, some of the camaraderie that you're going to have that you'll inevitably lose, because especially for Justin and I, once kind of him and I are both we're either in or we're out. At this point in my life, I don't feel like I owe Halo anything. It's given me a lot, and I'm very appreciative, but it's just a blessing for me still that I'm able to be involved, and at this point I'm just lucky to still be around 16, 17 years later.
Yeah, no, we're glad to have you here. It feels like there's so many of us OGs are just sticking around, man. There's something about Halo it's hard to get away from. For you, and we'll get to it in a minute, you tried to walk away and you got pulled right back. So you're not going anywhere. This is what it feels like, huh? So
Twice.
Yeah, right.
Roy would stop competing, and as was the case with Ogre 1 and 2, where the twins would split and yourself and Tuger would continue to compete, what was the driving factor in your decision to unretire and continue down that competitive path?
Yeah, I think for me, I felt like I had a little bit left to give. So after Justin retired, I ended up teaming with APG, Ace, and Neptune. And honestly, we put together a fairly good squad. We were competitive. We were top 6, top 5, top 4 area. And lost some close series to push even higher. So for not teaming with my brother, it was still an enjoyable time for me, particularly because of Brad. APG is one of the best teammates that I had the fortune of teaming with. So we had a young Neptune who was kind of breaking into the scene at that time. Yeah, it was bittersweet, competing without my brother, but I played that next season, and it was bittersweet for sure.
So it looks like after one more last hurrah, 2018, you finally did hang up the sticks for good. What kind of went into that, the second retirement to be done for good with competing? What made you decide to stop?
That was towards the end of Halo 5 that I ended up calling it quits. And I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of official tournaments going on at that point. And, again, I'm not somebody that's going to linger around at this point in my life going to, the smaller tournaments and stuff like that. It's just not worth it for me time-wise and, financially. So that was my main reason, and kind of led into Justin's decision as well, because he retired, I think, right before the last season of Halo 5, where you could kind of see the trajectory of where things are headed. And, when you've been around as long as, a lot of us guys have, you kind of know how that cycle goes. So, because again, we got drawn back in later with the Halo 3 throwback tournaments, but, pretty much our retirements, it's just, at that point, we probably still had a little left in the tank, but, if there's not a lot to play for, then, probably won't see much of us around.
At some point, I guess, before Halo Infinite comes out, somebody from OpTic maybe approached you to be the coach of that original team, Trippy, Pistola, Lucid, APG. How did that come about?
Yeah, again, an unexpected phone call. I was actually on vacation in Mexico with my wife, drinking Coronas on the beach, and Ola texted me asking if I'd be interested in coaching for Halo Infinite. That was, the season was coming up, and I'm assuming he's the one that threw my name in the hat. Him or Brad, I guess, because I teamed with both of them at that time. But I didn't know Joey and Tommy other than played against them a little bit in Halo 5. But I knew the potential of that team, so I had interest right away. Coaching is not ever something that I sought out. Something I think I have a knack for just because I've been doing this a long time, and I think I always had a fairly analytical brain where I can even now not playing at the highest level, I watch at the highest level and still play a good amount. So I think I can provide decent input, and on top of that, timing weapons and stuff like that is pretty simple, and I've been doing it for a long time, competitively juggling playing at the same time. So
very humble response to say, yeah, I'm pretty good, pretty analytical. Meanwhile, most of the community considers you the greatest coach of all time. Like, he's like, yeah, I think I'm all right at it. But
I had a good mentor in Towie.
Towie helped you out. Okay,
he was the goat.
That's fun lore. Yeah, Towie, definitely one of the best coaches of all time. The guy is crazy.
There was nobody better by far in Halo 3 at timing all the glitch weapons than him. He never he didn't miss many times.
Wow.
And that was a huge advantage to know when weapons were coming up in Halo 3, because you had multiple snipers glitch and the rockets glitch, which was inevitable in the long pit flag game.
Yep.
Having that info obviously changed how you were playing. So he was pivotal in our success in Halo 3 for sure. He's kind of who I molded, at least early on, in kind of my coaching style.
Yeah, and you'd find instant success doing it, transitioning from player to coach. What was it ultimately like when you took home the Halo World Championship? You'd already won LANs as a player, but now you had achieved the greatest accomplishment as a coach.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I probably look at it maybe differently than a lot of coaches. I don't find much, personal satisfaction in it. It's much more satisfaction just seeing the guys on the team's hard work pay off. I'm content with what I was able to accomplish in my career, and I don't really look at the coaching accolades as much on my resume, but I enjoy seeing the guys that I'm practicing with and putting time in with them see success. Like that's the enjoyment that I get out of it. To watch them win, and especially in the fashion they did, where we got 4-0'd in the first series of the finals and ended up coming back and winning the next series fairly handily. So
now, Coach, what was this series like? You guys went to a reset, but you came back and battled back. What was the turnaround going into that second set for you to 4-0 them like that?
Yeah, obviously they came out hot that first series. They handed it to us a little bit, but that shows why these guys are the best team in the game for the last 6 months. What a series!
What a series indeed.
Just watching their resolve in that series in particular, I think was just incredibly rewarding for me. It's just guys that are all incredible people, and you see the hard work that they put in, and to watch it pay off, certainly brought back memories of myself when I was playing, and allows an old man like myself in this scene to get the adrenaline pumping when we're in a close game, and I'm watching how things are going to unfold. So again, I just feel fortunate that I'm able to still be involved in the scene in some fashion.
You've continued to coach OpTic for basically the entire lifespan of Halo Infinite. Last year, we see a string of consecutive second place finishes. In the offseason, Formal would then decide to create an OpTic God Squad alongside Bound, Legend, and Renegade. As the coach, I imagine you feel the responsibility to make sure everyone's head is in the right place and not feel the weight of expectations. With that being said, what's your approach for this season with this new squad?
I think I approach it the same way. I think, anytime a roster like this is put together, you understand that the expectations are going to be there inevitably. When you're getting 4 of the, most individually skilled players in the game, the expectations are going to be high, and quite honestly, any team that OpTic puts together is playing for first. That's going to be the goal always for an org like OpTic, and Hector's not shy about saying like that. They're playing for championships. So the guys understand what the goal is this year, and that's to win as many events as possible. So I think they're all proven, they're all battle tested. I think it's just going to be a matter of getting enough time together and working on what we need to work on and fixing game types that we're weak at, and we'll be in the running at every event this year, I would think.
In the offseason, it was rumored that you retired for good, then unretired to coach Faze, and then rejoined OpTic just a few weeks ago. What was the timeline actually like?
I was talking to a few different teams after I had parted ways with OpTic. Nothing really ever seriously unfolded, and I was content, leaving the Infinite scene and letting the current guys take the baton and carry it on. But as it usually unfolds for me, I got a text from Matt a couple weeks ago asking if I would be interested in coming back, and obviously I saw when this roster formed, and in my head I would feel stupid to say no to a roster like this where I feel like I can make an impact, whether it's small or not. I think I can help them in some fashion. So ultimately that was one of the biggest reasons that I decided to come back and coach these guys is it's guys that I've been watching play Infinite for the last 3 years, and several of them for longer. So I know what they're capable of, and it'd be exciting for me to kind of go through the practice process and seeing kind of where they can peak.
I'm actually going to skip ahead to one of the Patreon questions because it kind of ties into what we're talking about right now. So shout out to TZ Torak. Hopefully I'm saying your name correctly. He wants to know, what does a typical day in your life as a coach look like? How do you approach developing strategies, and how much time do you usually invest in that process?
I would say it's probably less than a lot of people think. Like, most of our scrims were streaming, so I'm not going to give a whole lot of input, especially in between games. While we're streaming the scrims, I feel like that's a little bit counterproductive. The majority of the top teams are watching the streams more than likely. Some of them might be recording them, whatever it may be. So, a lot of the input I'm going to give will be, just amongst our team, and a lot of it's just the guys going back and forth on how they want to play. And it's 4 of the best players in the game. So, a lot of times it's just a matter of going through scenarios and coming to a common goal on how we want to play certain game types, maps, or modes. So, my process is just to make sure that I'm present at as many scrims as possible. I'm not the leader of this team or anything like that. Like I like to be somebody that the team can count on. With any given moment in game and out of game.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, when it comes to coaching players of the caliber that you're coaching, like, they're going to be doing a lot of the strategizing and, like, discussions and adjustments amongst themselves. So do you feel like you become more of, like, a mediator to, like, keep them on track if they're ever, like, getting a little bit too off the rails, or are you more, like, just focus on making sure they get the power weapons? Or I guess maybe just, like, brief comments like, yeah, we didn't get any camos that game. Like, you guys got to focus more on setting up for camo.
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you have a team with, again, four very, very skilled players, that's what it's going to come down to a lot of times is those small intangibles. So, a lot of the games we're losing are probably games that, we didn't get a lot of the power-ups or power weapons. When you've lost a game most of the time, like, yeah, we did a crappy job of getting camos that game or whatever it may be. So I don't talk just to talk. Like, I'm not going to, a lot of that stuff to me is kind of like obvious after a game if we've lost it, especially handedly, like,
right.
If we're doing things poorly. But I think for me, it's more like bigger picture stuff and more macro things than it is probably anything on what I, try and get input for. And a lot of times it's, if somebody asks, what I think, or, it's not like I'm telling anybody on the team how to play, this game. They all have
right.
way more hours logged than me and are way better at this game than I am. So, I think that's probably a misconception that a lot of people, I see out there of people thinking that I'm like the ringleader. It's definitely not the case.
Are you ever like coordinating in game at least? Like, not like this isn't a good time to push, or like this is a good time to push, or do you just trust their natural instincts having so many hours in the game? Like, they're going to know when it's time to like push or back up?
I always try and paint a picture like for the team. Like, if I see somebody leading the charge, I make sure I relay that so that kind of everybody knows the timing of what's happening and when. there might be a time or here or there where I'm making a play call or asking if we can do something, but most of the time that you're asking that at the highest level, it's too late. Like it already needed to be happening, and the timing is a lot of times not going to be there anymore. So I'm trying to paint a picture for the team on, if something doesn't get said, I'm saying it, or if I see one of the guys making a play, I'm making sure that it's said, and kind of trying to say what they're doing while they're doing it, so everybody can kind of play off, whoever our most important guys at the time, whoever's getting into the fight first, or whoever's got the most space on the map. Just trying to make sure that we're aware of kind of where that player's at and what their goal is.
That makes a lot of sense. And I highlighted this recently. I was watching one of you guys scrims, and I heard in the comms you said something with the old roster. You said Trippy grab snipe, and I was wondering if you had and this is the roster with Lucid, who traditionally would snipe for that squad. I don't know if it was because he was just closer, or do you sometimes recognize when a certain player has the hot hand and they're hitting every shot, so you're let's empower that specific player because they're hot right now to grab the weapon? Is that something that you're looking for when you coach as well? Who's on fire?
To me, I would be more hands-off in that situation, so I don't know that situation you're talking about, but it probably was because he was closest to it, or he had the best route, or coming off spawn. Usually, if somebody's coming off spawn where you have a set base on a map that, I'll tell somebody that it's probably their snipe or something like that, just so that your teammates ahead are not coming back for it, because a lot of times, again, at the highest level, if you're giving up space on the map, a lot of times, that situation is not going to work out in your favor.
Yeah, that small talk is everything, and I think that's probably the most difficult thing for a player to do, is to have sharp small talk. But when you have a great coach, you can kind of make up the slack there.
And now this is the moment. Suppress jumps up top tower. Nobody watching the dummy rep. Suppress gets got out. He turns the corner though. No shield. Formal trying to play his life now. Forced to back up. OpTic Gaming are around Formal. They're going to back up. Go back into house. A risk by OpTic Gaming almost pays off in their favor. But everybody makes it out alive, unscathed. And now Camo may become a part of the conversation if this goes back into a stalemate.
So here we've loaded up a intense moment from HCS London. This is OpTic versus the old Shopify Rebellion. Very different lineup, but this is a moment that, in my eyes, probably highlights a very difficult part of coaching. Is okay, Camo's about to be up. We can't die a single time, and we need to find 2 kills. So let's just watch this together and relive this moment.
On the outskirts.
Yeah, this is such a weird moment, right? Camo's up. It feels like bait. Are you telling them to not go for it in a moment like this?
It's probably less me than one of the guys making that call.
Yeah, they've got so many eyes.
I'm probably relaying. We can't die, obviously, and they have the advantage at this point because they're. We need 2, they need 1, so us going for it, potentially just gets us melted as we dive on it. So we're kind of forced to play around it more than anything. You really don't have a choice. Going for it, it's kind of faded.
Yeah, this is such a palms are sweaty type moment. I feel like even as a coach, my heart would be pounding out of my chest watching this.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting the heartbeat going fast in moments like this, where it's a pivotal game. Game 2, we're already up 1-0. To go up 2-0 in a series is obviously huge. So any situation like this, especially at the tournament, Slayers play a heck of a lot different than they do online in practice. Everybody's playing a game of cat and mouse, basically trying to get whatever info you can safely, which is not easy.
A couple shots on the side, realizing that he's going to be a target. If he's not shot that much, did that Camo get snagged?
Are you starting to think play time here? I mean, a fight is going to be forced no matter what, right? You can't really play for time here.
Yeah, so eventually we're going to have to make a push. It's a matter of when, but I think, one of us calls to just all 4 of us run at something here, I think. So we basically start to train bottom center, and I think we make it all the way through bottom center and get to tower unseen.
You guys rotated and flipped sides.
Yeah, which is insane. The timing worked out that way, but
has to make the play. He gets the kill on the dice. All of OpTic are at tower. Oh god.
Where does Penguin find the last kill? I guess he got a beatdown in kill feed.
I don't know where he got that last kill at, but I remember the push bottom center very vividly of us not seeing anything, and we got all the way to tower before we got spotted. So, you know, in those moments, the way I always see it is, you know, the more that we're sticking together or just playing tight is usually going to give us the highest percentage chance of winning the game. They know that we're trapped inside of a base, you know, for the most part.
Yeah.
So if they decide to hit 2 or 3 people to one side and we, you know, we're low on numbers there, we're probably going to end up losing that fight. Guys played that, you know, pretty damn flawlessly, you know, and obviously they're talking through, or we're talking through that, you know, that entire situation on, you know, what we're trying to do. And especially with the fact that they got camo, it kind of, you know, put us on the back foot a little bit because, you know, we weren't sure at the time probably where that guy was at. So, yeah, ended up being you know, 50-49 win. You know, you always take those at tournaments for sure.
And OpTic continuing to make perfect decisions now put themselves up 2-0 here in the Elim finals.
What a beautiful ending of Halo we just got to watch there.
You guys wolf pack it out, rotate to opposite side of the map at the same time. Shopify does the same thing.
Yeah, it was. I mean, honestly, that was like some COD timing that, you know, nobody spotted us. Like there could have been a guy standing in top center event, like bearing down and see all 4 of us, but yeah, we were able to make it through. And that, you know, that play call there was, you know, probably one of the guys just wanting to take matters into our hands and not just, you know, wait the game out and let them make the play. So I'm also always I'm always a fan of us being the ones that take the game into our hands and you know, try and make the play.
The Shopify roster was kind of chomping at the bit, or just barely did not make it. Well, they made it to every winners finals and then just fizzled out every Sunday. But the new Shopify, they're proven to be pretty difficult for you guys. What's your take right now on the current Shopify rebellion? You and them have pretty much become the top 2 by a wide margin in the league.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where both teams are pretty evenly matched. I think our online scrim scores is pretty much dead even, and the case on LAN map count was dead even. So
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, if it's any premonition of what this season's going to look like, it's you know, it's going to be a fun one to watch. It's going to be that type of gameplay. It's back and forth. One of us might win a game pretty handily, and then, you know, the other team can do the same. So those are the fun series for me to watch. You know, the ones that you go into expecting a team to win are, you know, much less exciting to me than, you know, 2 teams going up that, you know, feel like either could win on any given day. It just depends on who shows up.
Not even just what day it is, but like in that specific game.
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
like
what game it is, right?
Who's going to hit a more insane quick scope headshot in a tight moment? Like,
yeah, it boils down to very, very small differences in wins and losses against 2 teams that are matched up as evenly as we are.
It's going to be an exciting year, man. I really can't wait to watch. I mean, I've been casting these and just after every tournament, I've been breaking down the series result between you guys. Are you aware that you guys have played 66 games against Shopify if you include the online tournaments, the now LAN tournament, and the recent scrims? And you guys are dead even tied at 33 and 33.
I am aware because I saw your tweet.
Can you recall a time in competitive Halo history that the top 2 teams were this close to each other?
Not with that big of a sample size. I'm not sure if there's been a time where it's been dead even after 60 plus games. So
crazy.
You know, Infinite's been out for 4 years now. Everybody's, you know, perfecting routes and angles and you know, playing on the maps. There is a couple. Well, there's one new map and then one remade map, which, you know, everybody kind of knows how to play who played Halo 5 for the most part. So, you know, there is added factors this season that we didn't have last, but again, very much kind of the same game that they've been playing now for 4 years. So everybody's, you know, slowly but surely probably getting to their kind of peak form at this game.
All right, and jumping into our Patreon section. So if you guys are longtime viewers of the show, you know how much effort we put into each and every episode. Myself and Makowski, as well as our editor Killsinthenight, pour blood, sweat, and tears into these. So if you want to support, please follow the Patreon. Following is free. You can also provide support financially if you want to help us out as well. Every single member helps us improve the podcast every single episode. On that note, we do have some questions that have been submitted by the Patreon supporters. I'm going to start with my man, Ruby Hacks. This guy has been in all of my streams. He's also done some coaching with me. So thank you for all your support, Ruby. He wants to know, what was the biggest hurdle in transitioning from a player to a coach?
To be honest, I don't feel like there was any hurdles. If anything, it got easier. Because I'm not having to invest the time as much on my individual skill, my in-game skill. But to be honest, everything about it was just easier to me. I still kind of do the same things that I did as a player, in terms of just trying to keep everybody aware of what our schedule is. When we play, when I think we should show up to the venue, that type of thing. But I was doing that as a player as well. So
yeah, way less pressure on you to perform day in, day out. You don't have to keep the thumbs active.
Yeah.
And like you said, Pistola, when I watched your top, Halo players of all time piece, Pistola said that you were like the team's mom Lunchbox, like making sure people were eating properly, were getting good sleep, not going out drinking the night before. Do you feel like that's a big part of your role right now with OpTic?
Everything is much more, scheduled now, and scrims we would schedule day of for a good portion of my career. Like nobody was scheduling them. We now, I've got scrim scheduled out 3 or 4 weeks in advance. So, I think everybody for the most part views it as their job, where back in the day it probably didn't get viewed as that enough.
Yeah, I think more people, players are a lot more disciplined now because it is their job. They have to perform, and if they go out drinking, there's a lot bigger consequences, I think, now than there were back then. You're also under contract representing an organization, whereas back in the day, you're kind of like...
It was the wild, wild west.
Yeah, you do whatever you want.
There's more people to please now than there used to be. If your teammates were happy with you, you were good. But now there's definitely many more outside factors that you have to be aware of.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we got another question here from Joe Rowland. Says, would you say you had greater success with Instinct from 2011 to 2012 or Evil Geniuses 2014 to 2015?
I think they're very comparable. I think, we didn't win every event with the Instinct 2011 team, but we won a good portion of them, and we won the national championship. So I think they're comparable. We had a pretty strong run on EG as well and H2A, but I'd also say, that wasn't the golden years of Halo and H2A. So I think that's, not that I'm not sure that Reach was necessarily either, but
right.
I also keep that in mind as well. Less teams playing, that sort of thing. So the competition maybe is definitely not as high, I think, as it is right now.
Yeah, in some ways it's like there's less teams, but at the same time, like the people that do show up were the best in the game and like consistently.
Yeah, and a lot of them are the same guys that are still playing too. So
right, exactly.
That doesn't change a whole lot normally.
Awesome. And by the way, shout out to Joe Rowland. He's also one of my consistent viewers. Appreciate you, Joe. And then this next question actually comes from our editor, Killsinthenight. He asks, what challenges do you encounter while coaching this current OpTic roster, considering differences in age, background, personality, and play style? What's the hardest part about it?
I don't know that I've had challenges yet. I mean, I've only been back involved for 2-3 weeks now, but I think from my perspective, it's I take any losses, maybe not as hard as the guys, but close. I always feel like I could be doing more. Or could have said something differently, or whatever it may be. I'm hard on myself as a coach as I was as a player. I seek perfection, or as close to it as I can get. So I would say that's probably my biggest challenge, is just feeling like I did a good enough job, or I said what needed to be said for us to help us win the game. And unless we win, I'm not going to feel that way. So that's probably my biggest challenge, just as a coach, is always feeling like I need or should be doing more.
Jason, it has been an absolute pleasure walking down memory lane and also looking ahead. Equally as intriguing to look ahead at the continuation of your career and your team in OpTic Gaming. As we move things along in the podcast, we're going to head to the quick cues section next, where we go a little bit more rapid fire. So, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, fondest Halo memory.
Probably Orlando, 2010, our first one, or X Games. Probably X Games.
Yeah, I thought it would be X Games, but the first is always special. Who's on your Halo Mount Rushmore?
For me, probably the Ogres, Walsh, Strong Side, Carbon guys.
Can only pick 4.
I mean, the FB guys. I mean, that was always who we kind of looked up to and idolized coming into the scene. So for sure, the Ogres, Walsh, probably Strong Side.
Who's your most hated rival?
I wouldn't say I ever had a hated rival, but TJ was always the one that I wanted to beat the most, just because he left us when he did. But
it's okay to say it.
I'm not sure that worked out in my favor.
What's a Halo hot take that might have you roasted over the coals for?
I was a big fan of Reach. Maybe not the Bloom era was tough, but I think a lot of people maybe have more sour thoughts on Reach than positive. But Reach, and again, it's a lot of it's probably because I found success in it. But Reach was always a fun one for me.
Favorite weapon throughout all of Halo?
Probably the BR.
From which Halo?
Halo 2.
Pretty fitting. I think that hit scan, it was still a projectile, but it was more of the hit scan variety, so you had less stress and frustration online. So I think that's a fair answer. Favorite Halo title to wrap things up?
Halo 1's my favorite, but not necessarily competitively. It was the game that I could play for as many hours as I had in the day, and never got bored with it. I can still go back and play it now, and it's just as fun.
Nostalgia is a hell of a drug. All right, well, that will do it for another jam-packed, incredible episode of Tide the Leader. More lore in this one than I think we may have ever had before. Lunchbox, it was a pleasure having you on the show with us today. Any final words before we let you get to the next OpTic Scrim?
I appreciate you guys having me on. Looking forward to the 4th season of Halo Infinite. I think it's going to be a very competitive season. There's pretty much everybody's put together their ideal rosters, and I'm excited to see how it pans out.
Do you have anybody that you want to thank for or shout out after coming on the podcast?
Yeah, I mean, shout out particularly to Eli Makowski for having me on, and a big shout out to OpTic. We're going into the 4th year now that I've been able to coach the Halo guys, and one of the best orgs, if not the best org in esports. So it's been a blast being involved with it, and looking forward to hopefully bringing some more championships this season.
If you guys enjoyed this episode of Tide the Leader, please make sure to subscribe. We just started a new YouTube channel where you guys can support one dedicated space for all of these incredible Halo stories. For myself, Eli, and Lunchbox, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys in the next episode of Tide the Leader.
End of Lunchbox's career. Let's go, boy, let's go! Boom, boy, boom! This kid thought he had a chance. You hate to see a career ended so soon. You hate to see it.
Beat me by 3, you dipshit. That's a 3.
I'm done.
I bet you are.
I'm done, buddy. GG.